Starting off this countdown, we have the hit and run. One day, a woman named Julie was out shopping with her daughter Lily. While out, Lily unexpectedly turned to her mom and said, "That car hit me." She pointed to one of the cars in the parking lot. She asked her daughter what she meant, and she continued on saying, and I quote, "Before I lived with you and daddy, I lived with another mommy and daddy." She continued on saying she remembers her blood running cold. Now, that's pretty dark for a 4-year-old to say, but she didn't stop there. Over the course of that day, she kept telling about how she died. She remembered seeing a red car, being hit, and then seeing ambulances. She also remembers her feet hurting. And her daughter got more and more uncomfortable as she started recounting more information. So Julie believes that her daughter was remembering memories from her past life. I don't even know what to say about this one. Like, that's pretty terrifying for the daughter and the mom. In our 9th spot today, we have The Life in India. Back in 2009, a young boy from Canada went to his parents' hometown in India for the first time. But as he was there, he started to grow really uncomfortable. He got to the point where he didn't even recognize his own mother and father, and insisted he belonged to another family. He also insisted that he had been to this hometown before, claiming that that was where he was born and raised. In fact, he eventually was able to describe his old home in immense detail. He proceeded to say that his name was Ram and that he passed away at the age of 29 from a hole in the heart. He also claims that he had 3 brothers and a sister. While using the description, they were actually able to locate a real family there that matched the boy's description. In fact, the man's name was Ram, and he passed away 30 years prior to the boy being born. He too also had 3 brothers and a sister. That is just some freaky crap right there. In our 8th spot, we have Arthur Flowerdew. And if you guys are liking this video so far and you want to see more content like it, then make sure you smash that like button and obviously subscribe to our channel. Please and thank you. When Arthur Flowerdew was a kid, he would have detailed dreams about a large city surrounded by a desert. He remembered there being a temple, a canyon, streets, and buildings. He even remembered the exact way that this city was laid out. Well, he thought nothing of it until he was older and was watching a documentary about the ancient city of Petra. He immediately recognized the place. It was the city he saw in his dreams as a kid. He actually ended up flying to the city, but before that, he was quizzed by an archaeologist who knew about the city in great detail. Arthur got all the questions right, as if he had been there before. When he arrived, he was able to point out major landmarks and revealed information about the place without doing prior research. Plus, he knew information about the ancient city that no normal person would have known. So, it's believed that Arthur once lived there in his past life. Coming in at number 7, we have Virginia Woolf. This next girl might have been famous writer Virginia Woolf in her past life, or in another universe, whatever you want to believe. Basically, when this girl was 12, she would have dreams about being underwater and seeing faces underwater. No one thought much of it until she couldn't stop talking about Virginia Woolf. Like she knew way too much facts about her without even doing research on her. So her mom decided to do some digging of her own. And that's when she found that the same night that her daughter was having those dreams was the anniversary of Virginia's death. How did she die? By drowning herself. Not only that, there are a lot of similarities that Virginia and this girl share. For example, they're both prolific writers and they are both bisexual. So she believes that her daughter was Virginia Woolf in her past life. In our 6th spot, we have The Ballerina. When this next boy was around 3 or 4 years old, he kept talking about how he used to be a ballerina. He would go on and on about how he would perform on stage. He even shared intense detail about the lights, to the music, and even the crowd. But sadly, he also remembers how he died. He told his mom that he was attending a party on a boat when he fell into the water and presumably drowned. He then said that the next thing he remembered was being here with his new family. Now, of course, his mom was just like, "Oh, haha, my son has such a wild imagination." But a week later, when his dad came home from a business trip, he told him the exact same story with the exact same detail that he told his mom. And that's pretty odd for a kid that age. They make up stuff all the time and then forget about it within a couple of days. Clearly, this means that his son was reincarnated. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with JB, not Justin Bieber. When this kid was 3 or 4, he randomly turned to his grandpa and said, JB, do you remember when we went bar hopping in Australia between island campaigns during the war, and I tried to flirt with the brown-haired Australian girl before I died on that island? Keep in mind, this came from a 3-year-old. What kid that age, first of all, knows what bar hopping is, and also knows what war campaigns are? Like what? Now obviously his grandpa was taken aback from this because A, JB was his grandpa's initials that he went by, but that little kid didn't know, he only ever called him grandpa. And 2, apparently during World War II, him and his friends would go bar hopping, and one time one of his friends tried to flirt with a brown-haired Australian girl. He later passed away in the Philippines. His grandpa never told his family that story before, let alone his grandson. So that's freaking weird. Maybe he really is the reincarnation of his grandpa's friend. Coming in at number 4, we have the Scottish pub. One day, a family in Scotland decided to stop off at a pub in a small village. Immediately upon arriving, their 4-year-old son goes, "Oh, my favorite place!" And his family was all like, haha, oh that's so cute, because he's never been there before. First off, his dad needed to use the bathroom, and the boy then took his dad's hand and was like, I'll just take you there. And without any help, he brought his dad to the bathroom, which, may I add, was tricky to anyone that hasn't been there before because it's not labeled and it's hidden behind this wall in the back. After that, more unusual things started to happen. Like, there was no fireplace in the pub, but the little boy was all like, I loved coming here and sitting beside the fire. And his family was like, okay my dude, chill with the imagination, okay, there's no fireplace here. But he insisted that there used to be one against a wall, and then he pointed to the wall. The bar staff later said that that was true, there indeed was a fireplace there at some point. But wait, it gets freakier. The boy went on to talk about the owner of the place and his dear friend Fred. He was also right about this. Fred was the owner there but passed away over 10 years ago. So how did this kid know all this information? Obviously, he used to visit this pub a lot in his past life. Moving on to number 3, we have the kid who solved his own murder. This story will forever leave me baffled. Like, I heard about this when I was young and it's constantly on my mind. I'm serious. It first began when a 3-year-old boy started telling his parents that he was murdered in his past life. He claims that he was killed after someone took an axe to his head. What's freaky is that this boy had a long birthmark on his head. It was in the same location he said that he got axed. I've said this before in other videos, but birthmarks are said to be like a symbol of how you died in your past life. Anyways, his parents didn't believe him until he literally took them to the village he said he once lived in and took them to the exact spot where he got killed. Well, guess what? After digging in that area, they unearthed a skeleton of a man with an axe wound in his skull. Does not stop there though, folks, it does not. The kid also remembered who the killer was and his full name. They then confronted him and eventually he did admit to the crime. So this dude literally got reincarnated to come back and get revenge on his killer. It's pretty badass. In our second spot, we have Banjo. This next kid might be the reincarnation of his uncle. So basically, he was 5 years old at the time and randomly asked his mom where Banjo was. Banjo was the name of her family dog that she grew up with, but she never told her son about him because he passed away in a tragic way. Basically, one day during a flash flood, her brother got stuck in the middle of a raging river. He was sitting on a rock and Banjo jumped into the water to try and rescue him, but sadly he got swept away by the current. Rest in peace, Banjo, we don't deserve dogs. Anyways, her brother was very distraught about losing Banjo. Those two were super close. And then, sadly, 2 years later after the incident, he lost his life while cycling. Now, how did her son know about Banjo? Well, she believes that he is the reincarnation of her brother. In fact, apparently the two both have eerie similarities. For example, they both like the same things. They have the same favorite color and like the same food. And they both like to sing. So she literally gave birth to her brother, which is really weird to say when I put it that way. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Chicago Fire. This next story was shared by a woman named Erica Ruhlman. When her son Luke was 5 years old, he would always say that he remembers he was once a girl named Pam. He described himself as having black hair and wore earrings like his mom did. When his mom asked more about this, he said he used to be Pam and then died and went to heaven. He then said, and I quote, "Eventually God pushed me back down, and when I woke up, I was a baby and you named me Luke." Luke also said that he used to live in Chicago, where he would take the train a lot, but he said he passed away in a fire. When talking about it, Luke made the motion indicating that he jumped out of the window, or Pam jumped out of the window. After Erica did some research, she found that in March of 1993, the Paxton Hotel in Chicago had a fire. The freakiest part? A woman named Pam Robinson died after she jumped out the window trying to escape the fire. Coincidence? I think not.
Starting us off like we always do, in at number 10, have you guys ever heard of the man from Tord? Well, this might actually be a real life time traveler. And this isn't just any time traveler. This is a time traveler who might have come from a parallel universe very similar to ours. Let me tell you guys this story. Back in 1954, officials at a Tokyo airport in Japan were confronted by a traveler from Europe with a passport from a country called Tord. If you guys look on any map and search Tord or try to search for it, well, you'll notice that it actually doesn't exist. So obviously this has to be a fake passport, right? But why would someone create a fake passport with a made-up country? I mean, it's pretty silly. So officials looked more into this claim. The man from apparently Torrid seemed very angry for the holdup, and he was serious when he told officials where he was from. When he was asked to show on a map where this place is located, he wasn't able to exactly point to it because it wasn't labeled, but it was located around here. He circles a place called Andorra. The man stated that this is his third trip this year to Japan from his company that's located in Torrid, his country. He said Torrid has been a country for thousands of years, but officials could not find proof of this claim. The man was taken into a nearby hotel where he was closely monitored while officials figured out this man's story. Like, what is going on? He did have a passport that showed Torrid on it, and the strange thing is this passport actually looked like an official one. Well, the next morning this man seemed to have just disappeared, and there's no way out of the hotel room without being seen. He was surrounded the whole time and monitored. Also, all of the paperwork the officials took in also seemed to disappear. I mean, is this real life right now? Apparently this is a 100% true story. I personally don't believe it myself. I'm pretty sure there's a movie out there based on this as well, based on a true story it says. It's insane. Could this man actually be from a parallel universe? Well, that's a question we may never have answered. From there, at number 9, let's talk about the Mandela effect. Well, this is a theory that maybe some of us have been living in an alternate universe. The Mandela effect is when you think something is one way, but as it turns out, it's something completely different. It's like an alternate reality for some of us. For an example, take a look at this. Do you guys think it's Looney Tunes or Looney Tunes? Is it spelled T-U-N-E-S or T-O-O-N-S? Let me know in the comment section below. I'll give you guys a few moments. Go down there, let me know what you guys think, and I'm gonna reveal it right now. Well, if you guys said Looney Tunes, T-O-O-N-S, well, you might be from a parallel universe because you're wrong. But how scary is that? Like 50% of the population is wrong. Are we all from a different universe? I thought it was T-O-O-N-S. There's no way it's T-U-N-E-S. Here's another one. Is it Berenstein Bears or Berenstein Bears? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, is it Oscar Mayer or Oscar Mayer? Is it Skechers or Skechers? Well, let me know all your guys' answers in the comment section below. Number 8, let's move on to a woman from a parallel universe. I'm talking about Lorena Garcia Gordo. Well, this is her story. On the morning back in 2008, she woke up to discover that there was differences in her life. Differences that made her really wonder if she woke up in another universe. When she woke up, her sheets were a different color. Well, maybe she forgot that she changed her sheets, so not a big deal here. Well, get this. When she went to her office job, a place that she's worked at for the past 20 years, that's when she really noticed like differences. She noticed new people, and she worked for a different department. She was very confused, so she actually called an ex-boyfriend she dated 6 months ago, and she was with this person for 7 years, but when she called the number, she discovered that it wasn't her boyfriend's phone number and the person she was looking for actually doesn't exist. And at one point she thought maybe she was drugged or had alcohol in her. She's very confused. She's not in the right state of mind due to the drugs. So she went to the doctors and tests showed that there was nothing inside of her. Lorena had all these memories that apparently never happened. She told her family she remembered a shoulder surgery that her younger sister had, but she asked her and that never happened as well. Her family thought she was going crazy. No one could figure out what was going on and how she has all these different memories that just never happened. I mean, detailed memories. Did she wake up in an alternate reality or a parallel universe? This is also something known as the Mandela effect that I was telling you guys about. It's when you remember a lot of things differently that has happened that it actually hasn't happened. But how do you remember a younger sister having surgery and she never did? I mean, I don't think that is part of the Mandela effect. At number 7, we have the boy who lived before.
He used to say when I was a girl I had black hair, or he'd say I used to have earrings like that when I was a girl.
The stay-at-home mom wondered where was he getting these ideas. Luke's answer changed their lives forever.
Well, this is Luke, who is from Ohio, and he believes he was reincarnated. His past life was a woman named Pam. He said that he died in his past life and he went up to heaven and then he was reborn again to what you guys see right now, Luke. Well, kids say the darndest things, but Luke's mom was really confused. So she tested Luke in his memory of Pam, and what was revealed was very scary. He said that he died in a fire in Chicago. He said he jumped out of a building. Listen to this.
In March 1993, a massive fire raced through the property, trapping most residents. 19 died, including a woman in her 30s named Pamela Robinson.
Pam had jumped out of a window to her death. I was really kind of weirded out by it at this point.
Is this real life right now? I don't even know how I would feel after confirming Luke's story that he remembers everything about his past life. This kid is only 5 years old. I know they have imaginary stories, but this one went into great detail. He was continued to be tested and he was shown a bunch of images of random people. One of them was Pam. She was mixed in there and he was easily able to pick her out and said, she looks very familiar.
And he pointed to the correct one.
So Pam.
Took me a couple days to wrap my head around it. I couldn't sleep. I thought about it constantly.
The family then looked into Pam's life to see if this is actually a real person, and she was. And then they started comparing her life to his life, and there was way too many similarities.
That Pam was a big like Stevie Wonder fan, and Luke like really likes that era of music. She played the keyboard a lot. And one of the things that Luke, his favorite toy at the time was this little tiny piano that he would tote around with them.
Alright, number 6. This one isn't a story, but it's more of a theory. So let's talk about the theory of having infinity universes. This theory actually scares a lot of people. I mean, the idea that our universe is just so minuscule in comparison to the infinite amount of universes. There's an idea that at any moment our universe could just be erased like in an instant. It's almost like, just imagine the real life Thanos snap, and then boom, everyone on Earth became the victim. There's actually a phobia called aperiophobia. This is a fear of infinity or even the fear of living forever. Would you guys be afraid if you can live forever? Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on that. For me, I'm not sure how it would feel. I mean, everyone around you would just be moving on to the afterlife and you're just kind of here on Earth. Stephen Hawking believed we can live in multi-universes, and it was actually his last paper he wrote before he passed away. So is this idea really that crazy? Well, I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Number 5, we have Godness Allison. She's a YouTuber who has claimed she indeed traveled through time. She went through another timeline.
Hello everyone, Goddess Allison here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about parallel timelines or parallel universes. And the reason for this is because I visited a parallel timeline.
She was taken into another world, and this took place in 2016 in October. She was taken early in the morning between 3:30 a.m. to about 6:30 in the morning. Well, Goddess spent 3 days in an alternate universe where she stayed in a hospital for 3 days. I think this parallel universe is called the Psychiatric Center. Well, this is a really scary story because people do believe that they have traveled into another universe. And wait till you guys hear about the kid who can actually prove that he lived in another time frame as another person. He's coming up at number 1, so make sure you stay tuned. Well, going back to Goddess for a moment, while watching her video, it's very confusing. I don't know anything she's talking about because I'm not that smart of a person, but to me it kind of sounds like she might be making some things up.
I think after having this experience, I think that we all live in one same universe that operates on the same laws of physics and quantum physics, on the same laws of perhaps geometric fractal, that of the plutonic solids that fit inside each other.
Okay, my brain kind of hurts with all of that information, so let's move on. Number 4.
What I'm about to tell you is something that I haven't even told my children, nor my grandchildren. My own wife doesn't even know what I'm about to tell you.
So this is Alexander Smith, who claims that he has traveled to the year 2118. That's about 99 years into the future. That is absolutely insane, but kind of cool. I would have so many questions for this guy, like, did Elon Musk actually make it to Mars? Did we become cyborgs? Is YouTube still around? Is Top 10 channel still around? Well, this guy's pretty lucky to have the opportunity to know what the future unfolds.
We didn't know if it would work. Sat me in a small room and we had many meetings. I had meetings with various scientists telling me what to expect, telling me what to do during the process of the actual time traveling itself.
This guy actually believes that the government and secret scientists, like the secret society, actually sent him to the future. Number 3, I really don't believe that time travel is real, but then again, there's been events in history and even stories that people have told that might show small signs that traveling to another universe or time traveling might actually be plausible. Have you guys ever seen this picture right here? Well, it's a black and white picture, but if you guys look right over here, you guys will notice that this woman is holding something. Well, that something is a cell phone. Well, let me put this into perspective for you guys. This picture was taken in 1938. Cell phones were invented by Martin Cooper in 1973. He was only 10 years old in 1938, so how was this picture even taken? Well, how does that woman have that cell phone? Phones weren't even thought of. There are many conspiracy theories and scary stories that surround this woman, and why or how she has a cell phone. It doesn't make sense. No one even knows who this woman is. This is a very interesting picture that is just simply unexplained. Maybe she's a time traveler and Alexander Smith might have actually traveled to the year 2118. Number 2, we have Paul Dinac, who is a Swiss language teacher who went into a coma from 1921 to 1922. When he came out of his coma, he shared a fascinating story with the world. Well, he didn't directly share it. Let me explain. When he came out of his coma, he said that he traveled to the year 3906 AD as a man named Andrew Northman, who was a famous physician. When he woke up, he acquired a great understanding of physics, and he went on to write down his experience in a book he published titled Valley of the Roses. He talked about what the future was like. Earth was able to colonize Mars in about 200 years, but there was a tragedy to the 20 million people living on Mars. So I guess that kind of answers the question we had before. Did Elon Musk reach Mars? I guess it's a no. And if everyone dies on Mars, maybe we should try and colonize somewhere else. The scary part about this whole thing is the fact that Paul's journal entry, which was very detailed, he actually didn't want anyone to read them or even know about them. It was only when he gave his journals to his students, they released it to the public, and that's when Paul's story was known. Can this story be real? I guess we're gonna have to wait 200 years to find out if this man was right. Finally, number 1, we have yet another boy, Cameron, who has memories of a past life. Now, this gets crazy. And he's also 5 years old, which is actually the same age as the boy Luke we talked about on this list at number 7. Well, since Cameron was able to talk, he started talking about a past life, a life that took place 220 miles away from where he lives.
I lived in the White House with my mum and dad and my 3 brothers and sisters.
The big problem with that story is that Cameron only has 1 brother, so who is he talking about? As Cameron got older, his story remained the same. it only got more detailed. He remembers his former parents' name. Many doctors and experts have actually taken interest in this fascinating story. Psychologists has even met with them. They met with Cameron and the family to find out if the story is real or maybe it's just all made up.
Really interesting. Basically, how Cameron describes his world really seems to be quite different from how children with imaginary friends and imaginary worlds describe their experiences.
Cameron, as he got older, kept asking his mom if they can visit where he used to live, and the family over time just said, yeah, let's go. Well, they traveled 220 miles away to the small town to see what would happen, to see if what he's saying actually exists. The mother thought maybe this would convince Cameron that this is just a fantasy in his head, and this past life, yeah, it never happened. Well, he remembered everything. They actually found the house that he described in much detail. If you guys want to see the full documentary, it's really fascinating to me, it's really interesting to me. Well, it's called The Boy Who Lived Before. Check it out on YouTube, it's really good.
Starting off this countdown, we have the dreams. Posted by the user Lost Within Myself, they believe that when they sleep, they travel to a parallel universe. To save the confusion, she calls them Universe A and Universe B, Universe B being the parallel universe. So in Universe A, our current universe, she is a 30-year-old female with dark brown hair and green eyes. She was adopted when she was little and is an only child. She's been married for 7 years and she has a little baby boy. But in Universe B, a lot of things are different. For starters, she has purple dyed hair instead of brown hair, she was never adopted, and she is the youngest of 5 children. She has a different husband and they have no children. Freaky, right? But keep in mind, she only goes to Universe B when she's sleeping. You could say maybe she just has wild dreams. But one time in Universe B, she was smacked across the face by her husband. And when she woke up in Universe A, she had a throbbing red mark across her face. Moving on at number 9, we have the lost friend. Posted on Reddit by Gotta Yeet, she is part of a friend group of 5. But recently, one of the friends in the group felt like someone was missing. She felt like they were always a friend group of 6. But she can't figure out who it is that's missing. So it's believed that that friend switched universes and is now in one where she has a group of 5 friends instead of 6. In our 8th spot, we have the different dog. So each universe is slightly different. Some buildings might disappear, maybe you live on a different street, or you're taller, or people around you behave a bit differently. While for the user Mr. Stuffed Baconator, he is now living in a universe where his uncle's dog is completely different. So a couple of years ago, he went back to Brazil to visit his uncle's dog for the first time. The dog's name is Sebastian and he is a white Samoyed. Then just last year, he went back to Brazil and his uncle's dog is now a huge Labrador. Still named Sebastian though, just a completely different breed. He asked his aunt and uncle what happened to their old dog, but obviously they had no clue what they were talking about. That was the only dog they ever had. In our 7th spot, we have the swap. This next Reddit user keeps switching between universes. He notices that every day something changes. For example, items in his room keep disappearing, his shower head turned from gray to black, and street signs keep changing around him. One day the street sign will be brand new. The next day it will be rusty, covered in vines. This has led him to believe that every day he wakes up in a new universe, one that is slightly different. Honestly, that would drive me insane. But hey, if I ever lose an object, I now know it's because I'm in a different universe, one where I never owned that object to begin with. Making our way down the list at number 6, we have the new items. Reddit user Blood of Loki shared a story about the time he was recovering in the hospital after a near-death experience. When he was finally well enough to go home, the hospital gave him the items he had come to the hospital with. These items were a green coat and a hat, but he has no memory of owning these items in the first place. But inside of the jacket was his personal items, so it's not like the hospital just gave him the wrong stuff. So he believes that sometime during his hospital stay, he switched to a different universe, one where he entered the hospital with that coat and hat. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the changes. Like I mentioned before, it would drive me insane if I woke up and things around me just changed. Well, this is what happened to the Reddit user Drizzle. So one night he went to bed on his white and black bed sheets, but when he woke up the next morning, his sheets were black and red. He also found that his laptop was covered in stickers, although he always thought putting stickers on electronics was stupid since it ruins the look of them. But there he was, different sheets and a different laptop. He asked his mom about the sheets, seeing if she somehow changed them, but she had no clue what he was talking about. Also, the night before, he got into a fight with his family and he woke up expecting that they would still be mad at him. But they weren't at all. It's like the fight never happened. So he believes that overnight he traveled to another universe. Meaning that his other self got sent to the universe where his family is mad at him. Like, imagine waking up and not knowing why everyone is upset with you. That would just add more fuel to the fire. Like, the parents would be like, "Oh, stop pretending like you don't know." Yikes, I bet that was a rough morning for that version of himself. In our 4th spot, we have the wives. This next story is pretty eerie, but also really cool. So posted by the Reddit user AJKnox09, he shared the time he swapped places with his other self. So first, it's important to note that his wife-to-be passed away when he was 20. Down the line, he got married to another woman who he's been with for 20 years and they have 2 daughters together. So one day they were all at a restaurant when all of a sudden he became very dizzy. He even grabbed the table to brace himself. When he turned to look at his wife, he saw that it wasn't his current wife. No, in her place was his 20-year-old wife-to-be and their daughter, who looked just like her. Then he was overcome with a dizzy sensation again, and when it stopped, he was back with his current wife. Which means that in another reality, his wife-to-be never passed away, and they went on to have a life together. Which also means he's technically married to 2 different women at the same time. Like, is that considered cheating if your other self has a different partner? In our 3rd spot, we have Nair. Reddit user Ganj_316 claims that he is from a parallel universe where Earth is called Nair. Yep, he said that back on Nair, people started disappearing all over the world without a trace. Then one day he did too, and he showed up on Earth. He then reached out over Reddit to see if anyone else on there was from Nair as well. Apparently, a lot of things are different back on Nair. His planet is smaller, they have different countries, and they don't eat animals. Now he just wants to find a way to get back home. In our 2nd spot, we have the drowning. Reddit user Lunatic McGee remembers the time where he almost drowned while going on a hike with his family. So while on the hike, there was a stream with a very powerful current. He decided to go near the water, but the rocks were wet, so he slipped into the water, and he was quickly pushed down the stream. Now, he remembers getting a hold of a rock and holding on for as long as he could before being dragged underwater. But then he also remembers his dad grabbing him and pulling him out of the water. So he remembers 2 different outcomes, meaning in one universe he drowned, and in the other he survived. And in our number 1 spot, we have the death. So there's a theory out there that we can live on infinitely. One of ourselves in one universe may die, but in another universe they live on. I'll explain that more in a second. So Reddit user Pino Bino posted this story 7 months ago. He said that he was driving to his office when all of a sudden a car came up behind him and he was overcome with an intense feeling of fear, as if that car was going to hit him. Suddenly he felt an intense jolt through his body, but nothing even happened, the car didn't even hit him. He continued driving on, but he felt an excruciating pain up his neck, and he felt extremely dizzy and sick. On top of that, he could smell and taste gasoline. He even had visions of his family receiving news that he had died in a car crash. But that never happened. So he believes that in one universe, he died in a fatal car crash, but in this universe, the crash didn't even happen.